Today obviously is a very somber day. The anti-protest bill did move through, not a surprise. But for somebody like yourself who very much shares Jen's vision that representation is a term of service, not a career. You are a true activist in every sense of the word. You like to be out in the field and speaking up for causes. How do you foresee this ultimately unfolding? I do think that this bill is essentially unconstitutional.
Oh, it's definitely unconstitutional.
It's going to cause a lot of problems. And I do think we're going to find out very quickly because Earth Day is in 3 days and people are going to be out in the streets protesting.
Wait, well, just so you know, this doesn't go into effect until when? Does it say? I think
immediately.
Oh, it is immediate because the police reform bill that I was reading about is July 1. So that's why I wasn't entirely sure that whatever they're putting through,
just goes
the
to
fake
show
police reform bill.
It just goes to show you, because this bill was DeSantis's brain trust, essentially. If he puts his mind to something and he wants it to get through, it's getting through.
So what's going to happen this week? What's going to happen on Earth Day, Elijah?
Well, it could be a bunch of arrests. That's what I can see happening. And HB1 passing and that going into effect immediately, just being that those protests are now criminalized, and people can just go and run people over now with their cars. A vigilante justice, what they call it. So I mean, I can say I'm afraid because I go to a lot of protests, but we saw a lot of protests for the first time last year. First time people coming out protesting, kids organizing mini protests or little rallies. I mean, now someone can just go and run people over and kill them because they're blocking traffic or just because they're in a protest. I mean, that's just wow. And this is going to scare away a lot of people from speaking up. That's just how they roll. They roll through fear, and we can't really let them.
And unfortunately for them, they don't realize there are certain groups like the Extinction Rebellion people. They just feed on that. They're wanting to get arrested. So it's like there's certain groups that are going to be like, bring it on. I mean, it's in some ways it's going to facilitate stuff that we don't want to see, but that might be necessary. But I know that there are definitely groups that are itching for this kind of stuff because this is going to have to be tested, but it is going to be found unconstitutional eventually. Or we're just a completely fascist state and it's all over and they've completely taken over the courts.
Right. Well, I hope not, but
I do too. I know. It's like I got my little constitution here and I know it's unconstitutional.
Well, I definitely suspect that groups like ACLU and others might sue in court.
Oh, yeah.
It's not. It's going to be like that with a few things. I think with that bill, with the anti-trans sports bill, the other, bills that they have coming through the election.
Let's talk about the anti-trans bill because I'm sure you're very well versed on it. This is something that I do think is often used as a wedge issue, but is also a very important issue when it's being used weaponized like this, because the people that get hurt are the people that are our most vulnerable people. So if you would just explain what Florida's anti-trans bill looks like.
So it's an entirely unnecessary bill that is addressing something that isn't even a problem right now because there are already things in place. So essentially what it does is it bans transgender students from participating in sports virtually, as well as general inspections to ensure that a child's sex matches the team they're playing for. So essentially it just says that, if you're a transgender woman or a transgender man, you can't play on the sports team of the gender you identify with. You have to play on the sports team of the sex you were assigned at birth. And you have to go through all of these different tests, including testing your testosterone levels, as well as general inspections. It's just entirely unnecessary. This is not a problem. I don't know any school district that's currently saying this is a problem. A lot of these young people are people who have taken puberty blockers, so they're not really getting advantages of the sex they were assigned with at birth. A lot of things I hear from Tallahassee in some of these hearings, I don't want a transgender women or participating in women's sports because they have an advantage. And I'm like, a lot of these kids
don't though.
They don't.
No, I mean, it depends on when they transition. And I think that, like you said, this is a non-problem that's being made into a problem. And yeah, if I'm a female and I'm in a race and someone who was born male decides the day before, no, you know what, that's it, I'm going to let the world see me for who I am, I'm coming out, I'm a woman, this is it, and then they run, yeah, I got a problem. But when you're talking, that's not something that exists. People don't understand that's not how any of this works. How this works is that people are on hormone blockers for a very long time, and they actually then end up with the same strength level as what is their gender. And so I don't think, people don't understand that. And that's, I think there's a lot of miseducation about that.
Right.
But which is why I said this isn't an issue.
Right. And this is just like high school sports. This isn't like Olympics or anything. And I'm like, just let these kids play, because there are other consequences to this legislation that might be that I don't think they're taking into account. We already have a pretty high level of suicidality amongst trans youth, because these are young people who don't feel comfortable in a society right now because they've been attacked. They've been told they don't matter, that their identity isn't real, and just seeing this could lead to a lot of those young people feeling further marginalized, and then telling them, hey, you have a passion for sports, and you're living your truth, now you can't do either. That's going to lead a lot of these young people who just want to feel, they just want to feel normal. They just want to feel at home. They just want to get their lives started. And, it's just.
Yeah, see, that's freaking me out right there. I don't understand that. So essentially what we're having is that we're having policies that are encouraging something that they're fighting against transgender people using the bathroom for the same thing. So you can look at somebody's genitalia and invade their personal space, but they can't use a bathroom because, God forbid, you were to see somebody else's genitalia. I'm not understanding how so we're wanting people to be looking at children's genitalia. How is that a good thing?
It's policy that's being made by people who don't understand not only the lifestyle, but who don't understand the issues facing these young people. I mean, if they just really took the opportunity to be educated and know what the issues were facing transgender youth, or gender nonconforming youth, then I think they'd be looking at this in an entirely different way. They'd be looking at ways to uplift these children, to make it easier for them to get jobs, to get housing. There are a lot of issues with the criminal justice system. There's issues in healthcare facing transgender young people, and as well as adults. And I part of me, it just seems like it's just evil, and it's not. It's malintended for sure, but it's just evil. Not only do they not understand the lifestyle, and they don't understand these issues, they don't want to. Instead, they're making it harder for these children instead of just letting these kids play the sports. It's not an issue to anyone.
But you know that really what they're doing is they're using these vulnerable people to fan flames and rile up and rally people who love to kick down. And that's really all of these things. When you're creating legislation for a problem that doesn't exist, it's why? Why are you doing that? Because you're wanting people to think it's a problem, and you're wanting people to kick down. Like, it's just.
I think it speaks to, and I think it speaks to just like the anti-protesting bill. I mean, let's say that you legitimately had concern for violence in the streets. Okay, that could be valid, and there are certain things that are already in legislation.
Yes, you're not allowed to set things on fire. You're not allowed to start violence. That's already a law. There.
The idea. And again, this is what I would say to anybody who is in dead red. You have moderate Republicans. They exist. They're just not the ones who are driving the party narrative. The people who are driving the party narratives, guys like Anthony Sabatini, I know you know who he is, but that's basically who is running the GOP in Florida, along with buddies like Matt Gaetz and Ron DeSantis. And they obviously all answer to Trump. But with that said, why do you feel the need to put a clause in this bill that says that if you are a person who's on the other side of the protest and you take out a gun and you shoot somebody, you are basically, you will have all charges lifted lifted from you if you ever had to go to court. I'm like, this is nuts. Like, that is the type of thing. That is what should be the centerpiece of the whole bill. Why is this in here? What is the purpose of this?
Well, we know what
here?
the purpose of that is.
Well,
so that when one of their crazy right-wing incel guys comes and shoots into a protest crowd, they're going to be given, immunity.
If we didn't live, because again, all the income inequality, all the issues that we're facing today, remember, and I'm sure you would agree, Elijah, most of the problems we deal with, they're all economic related. And anytime there's heavy economic anxiety in society, it's very easy to be at each other's throats.
And I think that a lot of this is angry white male incels.
Sure.
I'm sorry, I do. I think a lot of the problems that we see, you don't see women going in and shooting up places. You don't see that. And they have same mental health issues and the same access to firearms. So you can't tell me that it's mental illness and firearms. There's something going on here with these men.
I think a lot of it just goes back to the culture of America, because again, a lot of this doesn't happen in other countries.
No.
Or it happens far fewer than it happens here. So a lot of it is the culture of America, the gun culture, the culture of violence, the culture of misogyny, the culture of toxic masculinity that people grow up in, and how that's also encouraged by the state as well, and encouraged by the media, and encouraged by every aspect of the society, including religion and everything. It's just encouraged, and these people feel entitled. And, some of them might have mental health issues, some of them might not. But again, it just goes back to this culture that has to change in the country, whether that's through the guns, whether that's through entitlement, whether that's through the toxic masculinity. And that's going to take a long time to change. It's not just the guns. I know some people want to say it's just the guns. It's not just
right. No.
And it's not just mental health. A lot of it, some people might snap, and a lot of it is, again, when we see a lot of these shooters, a lot of them grew up in really nice, really nice homes, or really, with everything, they could have had, and this still happened. So, how to deal with that, that's going to be, a contentious conversation going forward. But again, we don't see this happening in a lot of communities. We do see this happening a lot with young white males, and there's a lot we could do to prevent some aspects of violence. I think giving people opportunities, making sure they have jobs, they have everything they need can help, because some people could snap because they don't have access to those things. But it's a lot more to it than what we think is a whole.
Well, I mean, I think that the majority of gun violence are not the crazy guys going in with the automatic weapons and taking out and doing a mass shooting. That's a very small percentage of gun death in this country. It's a very small part. I know that sort of the white neoliberal suburban housewives would love to think that if they could just ban assault weapons, the gun violence problem would go away. And it's just that only impacts a very small percentage. And the majority of it is crime out of desperation. And it's either domestic, it's familial, it's people that are just at their last straw and they just have nothing else going on. And a lot of this is stuff that's preventable, and it's not mental health related, it's desperation related. And I got to say, and I've said it before, that if my kids didn't have health care and somebody was standing in the way of my kids getting a certain thing or surgery, I don't know what I wouldn't do. I got to tell you, I don't know what I wouldn't do. And so it's not necessarily something that isn't connected to the dire circumstances. It is. And getting rid of guns is not going to, it doesn't solve it. And I'm not anti-gun reform. I'm just saying it's not a panacea that you get rid of, you ban assault weapons and now we get rid of the problem. Thanks for watching. If you want to support our mission to transform politics into service, please like this video, subscribe, follow us on social media, and consider joining our Patreon, where you'll get early access to our interviews as well as other exclusive content. Links are in the description. Peace out.